not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turns Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Thank you, Father. I'm going to say thank you, Lord. You're everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of flesh. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we is my soul? No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Because I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the various radio stations, 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, 92.9 Sister Row Radio, broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you who are joining us on the various live video streams, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or on Instagram. A very special good morning to you. It is a beautiful Friday morning, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And with me in studio, I have my co-host, Mr. Roland Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan. I hope that you had a very pleasant night. And good morning to all our listeners. By whatever means you're hearing us, by whatever means we are coming to you live and direct, it's another day for Hard Talk. And so I want to welcome you to the program. I want to wish that those of you who had attempted yesterday or probably even the day before to call for the purposes of making a comment or to ask a question and was unable to get through, that today you would be blessed enough to get that opportunity. But be that as it may, I hope that everyone out there is enjoying life. At least we know it comes with its ups and downs, with its little aches and pains, but at least you are grateful, you are in the land of the living, you are preparing to do something positive with your life today. You had a good rest, peaceful and well. And for those who are not feeling 100%, or those who are not enjoying their life and their existence as much as we want them to, or as much as they think they should, whatever the issue is, whatever the problem, whatever is preventing you or causing you not to be in the best of mood or to be enjoying the best of health or the best of life, I do hope and pray that you will find the power within you to transform yourself from where you are, your life from what it is, that you may be able to deal with and wrestle with and conquer whatever that problem that you are faced with, whatever the issue that is bothering you, is preventing you from enjoying the best of what you should be enjoying. But, come and trust yourself, trust God, and always believe that where there's a will, there's a way. And if you put whatever it is you want to achieve, you want to get rid of, you want to take care of, put it before you and continue to focus on it, because that's, I believe, is one of the best ways of making sure that you get it done, you accomplish the task, and you make sure that you can make the transformation. So, good morning, everyone, and let's get going. It's Hard Talk.
It's Hard Talk. So, what going on with you this morning is you're a guru this morning. I find that opening statement was very fulfilling.
Well, I try to be fulfilling, not only to myself and my family, but at least I try. I don't say it always happens, but every time I open up my mouth and my tongue start moving, I hope that what utterances that come out will be somewhat fulfilling for at least someone. At least if whatever I say on a daily basis or every time I speak can have positive effect on at least one individual.
You're satisfied?
Well, at least we are making progress. Right. Yes, I'm not satisfied, but it means that progress is being made.
All right. Well, Mr. Paula, this morning we're talking about economics. Now, I know we are not any economists in here, but at least we try to open discussion so people can weigh in and, give their point of views on what is happening. And we know that with the recent effects of COVID-19, there has been a lot of economic changes, and there will continue to be a lot of economic changes, especially for us here in the developing states, in the lower regions of the world. Now, gas price recently went up, Of course, Dr. Mitchell get blamed again. I don't know how Dr. Mitchell is sleeping at night.
Well, you don't sleep with him. You can either ask him or you can spend a night with him to observe him, to see how he sleeps. I mean, these are two practical ways.
He is, doesn't he?
So why? I would not know. I've never been
I'll have
fortunate.
to ask him. I must ask
I've
him.
never asked, and I've never been fortunate enough to be close enough to him when he's asleep at night to observe those things.
I must ask him. Because I feel like people just find the easiest finger to point and not really understand how things are going. Now, I know I'm not a driver, so I don't feel the effects of the gas price really raising, honestly. Don't watch me, so you are. But there has been a lot of talk about the gas price raising and thinking that it's like an internal thing that is happening. Oh, we raising the gas price again, what we go do? And, we just start in terms of seeing the effects of rise in prices for different things, the rise in price of cost of living, because there's something that we must always take into consideration, and it's called the chain of supply and demand. Once something is in consistent supply, once there is a large supply of something and a diminished demand for that thing, the price is always lower. But when the supply is low and the demand is great, the price increases.
But I'm not an economist like yourself.
Like myself?
But you said you weren't.
Oh, okay.
Like you, I'm not an economist. Okay. In other words, let me phrase it.
Rephrase it. Yes, please.
Like you, Miss Duncan, I am not an economist.
Okay.
But one of the basic things that you learn in economics or even in business studies is that prices are generally driven by demand and supply.
Right.
That's what is called the demand curve.
Right.
There's that graft that is drawn to show where supply on the vertical side, I think it is, and demand on the horizontal side, whatever, wherever they meet, that will determine the price. And as you correctly said, wherever there is a greater supply than demand, as the supply curve goes up and the demand curve goes down, the price automatically will drop. But I mean, even locally, it happens.
Yes.
Especially with farm produce.
Yeah.
When you have an oversupply of tomato on the market, every housewife is happy. Every household that loves vegetables is happy.
Yeah.
Because you would then get tomato at least sometimes $1 a pound. And then you get huge parcels, 6 and 7 pounds for $5. Because there's so much in supply that in order to get it out, you have to offer the best and most attractive price for your item. Now, in a couple of weeks after that massive oversupply of tomato, as an example, on the market, there exists a scarcity where just a few farmers now have. And instantaneously, from a price of at least $1 a pound 3 weeks ago, you are now paying $6, $7, sometimes $8 a pound. So it is something that if we come back right home at the market area, we would understand. It happens with cabbages, it happens with mangoes, it happens with sweet potatoes. A lot of it on the market. If a farmer producing, the demand for it have not risen, have not grown, the price will definitely drop so that people can get it off their hands.
Right.
Why do you think some companies, some hardware, shoe store, clothing store, even supermarkets sometimes they run special on certain products. They have sales on certain items. One is because demand for that product has decreased, and in some instances the expiry date is drawing close. So you want to get rid of it and make a little something rather than have to allow it expire on your hand and you have to dump it and make nothing.
Yeah.
So in the whole business of pricing and up and down, there's all those considerations. But that is the simplest of considerations that I have given.
Right.
Now, as it relates to export items or imported stuff, and crude oil is one of those, or gasoline, petrol is one of those which you touched on. It is not the first time that the price of petrol has been fluctuated. Go up today, down in 3 weeks' time, up again, down, or something further down. Because it has a lot to do again with demand and supply.
Yeah.
And the petroleum producing countries, as we know them, mainly from from the Asian countries, the Middle East side, these are the countries that have and produce the majority of oil, the Saudi Arabia and, Egypt and a lot of those countries. And they form themselves into a conglomerate, into a cartel that is called OPEC.
Right.
I think it means oil producing countries, OPEC, right? Yeah. What is the E for? Oil producing, you could just find it. I miss the acronym by a word. But
exporting countries.
Exporting. Oil producing, exporting. The E is for exporting countries, right?
And it's Organization of Petroleum
Exporting countries.
But you was close though.
Well, I'm getting to be an older man than I was before, so the brain is not as sharp. And these are not things that you make reference to every day. So sometimes you miss something here or there. But it's OPEC. I know it's called OPEC. I just couldn't remember what every acronym was standing for. However, the point I was about to make is that because it's individual countries, right? But they form themselves together into this grouping. They sell the oil individually, but under that umbrella.
Right.
Because in that way, they can better manage and control prices. Now, you have some of those countries that can produce, as they say, million barrels, 10 millions, 20 million barrels per day.
Right.
Now, when the economies around the world becomes kind of sluggish and the demand for crude is not as great, what do? They quickly scramble a meeting and they say, look, our prices are dropping. And then they give quotas. So if this country, for example, could produce 1 million barrels a day, they say, now we need you to produce 500,000.
Right.
And you, instead of 2 million, 1 million. And you, instead of 3 million, 1.5. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they cut the production by 50%, which is quite opposed to how you would do with vegetables and other things. Because if you decide, well, there's a lot of tomatoes on the market, so let me not harvest mine. When you come next week, you won't find a tomato.
Yeah.
Because, these are perishable items. Crude oil is there in the ground.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't take it out, you don't lose it.
You don't lose it. Yeah.
It remains. Mm-hmm. You take out and you refine, so you have. So they cut production so as to keep or to create what is referred to as an artificial scarcity. Yeah. And that by itself will cause prices to go up.
Because from the research I did in 2020, and that is when the pandemic really struck and there were forced lockdowns in a lot of places, the world's oil market was massively oversupplied.
Right.
And as a result of that, the prices increased because at one point, the prices decreased so much that they were trading, I think, at a negative number.
Yes, there were times when that happens. When there's so much oil on the market that what you sell for sometimes is less than your production costs.
Yeah.
So you are trading at what they call negative value in that you are spending more than you're making. It does happen. Mm-hmm. It has happened in the past. And there's no doubt that it may happen in the future again. Because different things can influence that. When you have, sometimes, as we have a pandemic here, you have hurricanes and you have other natural disasters that has affected a number of countries that are heavily oil dependent, and the economy has gone into recession. They are locked down. There's nothing happening. There's no demand for the oil, and the supply continue to be the same. Right. So you have excess, and that drives prices down. Yeah. And that is why they sometimes meet and decide they will cut production levels.
Which is what they did.
Right.
Which is what happened.
But this also is only one factor. Mm-hmm. Because when you cut production, which will result in an artificial scarcity and cause price to rise, this is one factor alone that is being considered. Mm-hmm. As a result, the transportation, so the vessels, as we call them, oil tankers, that have to bring now that product to your port for your consumption, means that the freight will also go up, because they too will be paying a higher price for the petrol that they're burning to transport your oil from wherever, from the Middle East, from Venezuela, from wherever it's coming to come to Grenada. So that's a second factor that affects your price, right? Now, we know, as we know in Grenada, 95, 97, well, maybe about 94 by now, because some people are into solar, % of our energy cost is being produced by crude, by fossil fuel. So the fact that they are going to pay a higher price for the fuel that runs the engines that produce the energy, the final cost of energy to the consumer will go up. Electricity will rise. Right. It also means that storage costs will rise. Because you have to light up wherever in the night, you have to use electricity because the electrical pumps that they use, and because the rate has gone up, they too will have to, because it's the consumer who always pays the final price.
Absolutely.
So while the distributor or whoever has an increase in cost, they don't absorb that increase for themselves. They find a way to factor it into the final selling price. So it is always the final consumer who will end up paying it. But there's also another factor, which is that government has a petrol tax, which is a tax on petrol. And I am not sure. I don't want to believe from my knowledge of it that it is charged based on CIF. Now, CIF means when you're inputting something, they say, what is the CIF value? What it means to the ordinary man who doesn't understand that, it means the cost, the insurance, and the freight. The cost of the item, normally during the shipping process, that item will be insured. So the I means the insurance you pay. The F is the freight. What you pay is you pay that vessel or aircraft, airline, to transport it from its point of origin to your country. It's referred to as freight. Like you pay the bus. You are the product, you pay the bus for freight. We don't call it freight. They say you pay the bus because you travel with it. When your items travel with a boat or with a plane from America, from England, from Canada to come to Grenada, there's a cost. And most time the cost is by weight.
Right.
So on the plane, for example, based on the weight of a bag, you are being charged.
Right.
On the container ships, I think they charge you by space that you occupy. So the bigger your container, because you have different sizes of container, you have the 20-footer, you have the 40-footer, you have the 50-footer, you have, I think there's a smaller one than the 20. I'm not sure if it's a 10 or whatever. But I used to see it a lot when Geese boat used to come in, when the Geese boat used to come in from England. I don't see much of it now. Maybe it's still around. Whatever, they charge you freight. They call it freight, but it's the same charge for transporting. So as the initial price goes up for petrol, the price for freight goes up as well. Because that vessel will be paying more for the petrol that they burn. And the price has to be passed on. Yes? But I don't think government charge based on the CIF, at least for the petrol tax. Now, you pay other goods and services, you pay custom service charge, you pay VAT, and you pay CSC. CSC is what again? Check it out, see if you can get it, the CSC.
Right. Googling this morning.
Yeah, Google. That's a charge that you pay the customer. I can't remember what CSC means. But these three are combined, but it's charged on the CIF, meaning the cost of the item, the insurance and the freight is added together, and CSE, I mean not CIE, CIE I said? CSC. Carriacou.
You really have me going this morning.
You didn't find it yet?
No. CSE?
Is that what it is?
I don't know. You telling me?
No, but it's a charge that you pay on regular goods. But I think for petrol, it's charged per liter or per gallon. There is a cost for every gallon that you import. So yes, there is a government tax. It's called the petrol tax. Now, there was one time in Grenada, I know, when government, that was a time when the price per petrol was being fixed and government had lost millions and millions. Well, let me not say lost, had refused to collect. Because as the price on the international market went up, what the government did was cut the rate of the petrol tax. So in other words, they were subsidizing the price we were paying.
Right.
But that was not sustainable. That was done for quite a while between 2003 to 2008. After the 2008 loss, and then the NNP administration came back in 2013, and you had the structural adjustment program. The IMF and Caribbean Development Bank and others who were assisting Grenada said, but look, as a government, you cannot, petrol is not something that you can subsidize.
Right.
So you cannot continue to cut back on your intake of revenue to ensure that the price remain low.
Right.
The price has to be factored in, whatever it is. And it was from then that you start having that review, I think every 5 weeks. There will be a review of what the price is on the international market, and the price at the pumps will be adjusted based on that. Sometimes it goes up by a couple of cents, sometimes it goes down by a couple of cents, because as the price fluctuates.
Right.
Now, those who have been driving for a long time will remember the era in our country when the prices were fixed at the pump, irrespective of what the price was on the international market. And that was possible because the government, every time the prices went up, they cut back on the taxes they were supposed to collect. So in other words, they buffered the price between what you were paying and the price which you were supposed to pay based on international prices.
Right.
But now they have stopped. And in a time like now, when revenue has decreased,
it's not possible.
It's not possible so
Right.
to do. So all of these things have to be factored in. So it's not just a straight thing with the government say, we're charging $15 a gallon, or we go charge $10 a gallon. Oh, that's a good friend of ours. Let me give him for 9.
Right.
And let me give this. No, it doesn't happen that way. Right? You have the people who work in the energy division in the Ministry of Finance who are in constant contact, and they track how prices are moving on the international market,
right.
what is being paid for. And based on that, and all the other factors that I explained, the freight, the insurance, the petrol tax, all of that is combined. The markup that the supplier has to make, the markup that the retailer, the people at the gas station make, because all of that is fixed. I remember, I think it was 20 cents a gallon at one time that the retailer was making. Or when that's at the pump where you
right.
sell, and so all of those things have to be factored in, and then you come up with a final selling price, right? So it's not just that. Now, if we recall, there was a time when petrol, I think it was just prior to 2008, I think, or after 2008. When the price, prior to 2008, when the price of foodstuff was going up, but the price of petrol was dipping. And that was around the time when some of the larger countries started to experiment with fossil is what we use from the crude, but with biodiesel and ethanol. So places like Brazil, they started using sugarcane that we use to make rum and spirits and all those things to make ethanol, I think is what they call that fuel, that they were then using in vehicles. There were these vehicles, the Volkswagen, I know, they do have a factory in Brazil, and some other vehicles that they refer to as flex vehicles.
Right.
They manufactured them in such a way that they were able to use both ethanol and the regular traditional petrol. So they started using sugarcane to make ethanol. And then they were using, and other countries in the US and so started using soybean and some of the other things to make biodiesel. So for diesel vehicles, because it was around the time when they started experimenting to see what alternative fuel will be better for environmental purposes. As we know, the crude oil, the fossil fuel, is the worst that we can use. It affects the ozone layer and increases greenhouse gases and has a direct impact on negatively so on global warming. So then you had something called the food versus fuel is the correct word, yes.
Fuel.
Food versus fuel war was happening. In that, a lot of what we consume as food then was being used to and transformed into energy, into petrol usable by machines. So it created an artificial scarcity of food on the world market, right? Because there was not an increase in production. Corn was being used to produce biofuel. Soybean, sugarcane for ethanol, and things like that. And so you saw a sharp rise at the time in food prices. I recall being in government at that time, and the government of the day had to help purchase milk, powdered milk that was being distributed in the villages to people who had young children. That was the criteria, and senior people. Because at that time, the price of powdered milk had doubled.
Right.
It used to be about $5.60 a pound, I remember clearly, and it went up to close to $12 a pound. And that was a sharp and really astronomical rise in the price. And so government came in and said, listen, we have to protect our children because nutritionally, especially the young ones, they need the protein from milk for the bones and teeth and also the brain. So on a monthly basis, I think it was a certain supply was given to every area that was subdivided into villages, and the people collected at a particular point. But you had to verify that this is a family that has X amount of children under the age of 5, or had a senior person living, because also the seniors, we felt, needed the kind of protein. Those who were of my age then, who were still very young and vibrant, we didn't think, the nutritionists didn't think that people like us was dying or would die if we didn't get milk, right? So I'm saying all that to draw to the minds of people that when you see a final selling price and you start blaming the government, sometimes the government of the day has very, very, very little to do, because there are some basic food items that do not attract some of the taxes that others pay on the pot to clear.
Correct.
Right? Because, so for example, items that pay VAT, the 15% VAT, you have what they call VAT exempted items.
Yeah.
These are basic food items that the ordinary man, that basket, and I cannot tell you all of the products that is in that basket. I don't know if you Google it, if you would find it, but there's a basket of food that is considered to be everyday sort of regular things that the ordinary man will shop for. And so government says, because they are the lower end of the survival strata, because they are the lowest earners in terms of wages and salaries in the country, they need to get a break. You have some other items that are not basic necessities, but well, there may be protein food. There may be, I think, like things like medication. It doesn't have any VAT and thing on those. And both the poor, the not too poor, those who are a bit higher than the poor, everyone would use medication when they're sick. So these things, a lot of agricultural items don't have.
Yeah. And you would see it because it shows when you go to the cash register. They show you everything that
what VAT
is attached to,
and what VAT. Yes, they do. Because sometimes, if you have to get a discount on something, they normally tell you, well, the VAT exempted one sometimes, we have to cash it separate or put it on a separate paper, and those that you pay VAT, it goes on a different paper. So there are some items that do not pay, some of the basic food items, they do not pay any VAT on the port for clearing. They are duty-free items, as we call them, but yet still the prices goes up.
Yeah, so it's things like flour and sugar and rice and milk,
yeah, some of the basic things. So you
infant
formulas and things like that. Yes, they have the exempted list, so you know what doesn't pay. But if you want to buy lunch and meat and all those sort of things, which are more exquisite to some extent, and you want special cut lamb that comes from New Zealand, and you want certain specific kind of cheese, all of those things contain a tax. They have the VAT on them. And you may want to say, well, government could have cut the VAT on that too, but government has to charge on some items, because that's how government raise revenue, to repair the roads that we talk about that going so bad, to make sure that our schools have furniture and that they're repaired, to make sure that the hospital has medication, and of course the hospital staff can be paid, to make sure that government vehicles can get petrol and you can buy tire, to make sure that electricity is being paid for all of the government offices, and so you must charge taxes on some items. Yes, so it is not fair to say the way in which some people are saying it, well, what the government is doing about the rising prices of foodstuff. There are some things that the government just can't do anything about. It is an issue of supply and demand. It is an issue of cost at the point of origin, at the source of purchase. It's an issue of how much is being charged for freight. It is an issue of the handling charges, and sometimes it has nothing to do with government in terms of taxes and duties.
Now, there are some that would say that well, if that is the case and they have no control over the end result, then why not a raise in salaries? Why not a raise in minimum wage or basic salaries of individuals?
Well, the minimum wage is something that is being looked at on, I don't think it's an annual basis. I don't know if it's biannually or so, but I remember some time ago, there was a review, there was a study done. There's normally a group that looks at the minimum wage. inflation is taken into account. So there's a number of things that they will consider and determine what the minimum wage should be. Granted that there are some employers who still doesn't follow the rule, and some categories of work, some people, and I don't think it's a lot, but you hear about it every now and again. Some people are being paid less than what the minimum wage says, right? And the standard that is set. And of course, there's redress for those matters. If people know, or if people have an understanding, they can easily lodge a complaint with the Ministry of Labor, the Labor Commissioner, and so, who can look into it. And if there is not satisfaction in the way in which it is dealt with, you can always go further on. But outside of that, one has to also accept the fact that to do a wage increase, which may be justified in some instances, and look, underline my word, may. I'm not saying that in all cases it is. In some cases it may be justified. And of course, justification or not, who doesn't want more money when they work? Everyone, I believe, will gladly accept if they get an increase. 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, even better off, yes? But as I was explaining, it is basically taxation and license that give government its revenue. The port, between the port and inland revenue, some 85% or so of government revenue that they spend every day is collected, yes? Probably could be a little more. Because at inland revenue, you pay taxes and fees. So you go, your license, driver's license, vehicle license, tax, property tax, your land and your house, and there are some things that to import them into the country, you need to get a license and pay that license. So, for example, I understand that to import sand, as they're doing from Guyana, you must get a license. I think via the Ministry of Infrastructure or some way. And then you have to pay for the license, and then it has to be renewed, whether it's annually or twice per year or what have you. You pay a fee to renew it, or if it's on every importation. I'm not sure how it's configured, but I know you have to get a license, right? And there are several other things that you pay license from, and there are some fees, like when you go to do a passport, you have to pay X amount to own that passport and what have you. But that's how government raises revenue. But some of the fees that you pay for some things, sometimes it's even insufficient to replace it. So every time you get a passport, to print another passport for another person to make sure that you have in stock may cost even more than what you're actually paying for the passport, the fees that you're paying. So it's a lot about government subsidizing many things because they are basic, they are needed. Government can't go it all, so they charge something. And it will be interesting to know some of these costs. Because in the eyes of some people, every time a fee is charged for something, some sort of service or so, they feel it's too high. And government is taking advantage. But sometimes when you dig into it and you get all of the factors, you realize that you should have been paying more to complete the cost of the service that you get. So sometimes some people go to the hospital and for a blood test they may have to pay $5 or $10 and they think it is outrageous. Oh, the government shouldn't be doing that. But here's what, if you walk into a private clinic, you may be paying $50 or $60 for the same blood test you pay $10 for at the hospital. Right? Because government is always subsidizing. Government is always putting in the portion that is missing. Right? So to get back squarely to the question about some people may argue because of the increase in prices, it's time for an increase in wage and salary. Yeah, well, if you guys paying more for what you need, you would need to have more money. But as I've explained, a lot of time the increases that we see is not related to any increase in taxation by government. So while yes, you have to pay more for some items, it doesn't mean necessarily that the government is collecting more taxes as a result. So in order for government to be in a position to pay more, they must be collecting more. Because we hardly ever operate with a surplus. We're quicker here about a deficit where you're spending more than what you earn. So the more government can earn, the more it can give to people. And so we must all, irrespective of who we are, where we are, what we work for, even if we're not working at all, we must all endeavor to pay whatever taxes or fees that we have to pay, and don't try to cut corners, because then tomorrow you come back around and say, well, we need this, we need that road fix, we need that drain construct here, we need a street light there, we need this, we need that. There's a new village opening up here, so we need better roads. All of that comes with a cost.
Yes.
And if government is not collecting sufficiently, then they cannot take care of these things. There's another way in which government raises some of its revenue by loans and so on. Sometimes you get grants, a little gift from one friendly country to an next, or one organization deciding that they will take up the responsibility to do a particular project. And so it's been done on behalf of government, and so that's on behalf of the people of the country. But it is not a straightforward thing to just say prices rising, so salaries should go up correspondingly.
Right.
It would be nice if that can happen, but there are a lot of other things to be factored in before you can do such.
Right. Now, research has also shown, Mr. Bola, and we have to, of course, talk about that, because this is, of course, going to impact the inflation rates and so on in developing countries, because as you said, as we said, it's supply and demand. Where there is little supply, the prices are higher. Where there is more demand, but where there is more supply and demand, then of course the prices will be lower. Now, in 2020, the global GDP fell by 3.3%, right? It's expected to recover by 6% in 2021, but that is heavily dependent on the rate of vaccination.
Yes.
It's also shown that if economies or world economies do not vaccinate sufficiently within this time to meet that 6%, that we could be looking at about $9 trillion in economic devastation, which they are saying would be worse than what we experienced in 2008. And we all know what we experienced in 2008. We all know about the economic crisis, but also lack of management during that crisis really made us feel it a lot more than we would have if there was proper management. I mean, thank God that we are at a place where this administration has done a lot of crunching in terms of numbers and so on. So we were able to put a little aside here and a little aside there, you know. So we don't really feel, and that's, you see, that's the thing about us in Grenada here, especially during this pandemic. We have not really felt the full blunt of COVID-19, not on the economic side, not on the...
Well, on the economic side, more than the medical side.
More than the medical side, but not as consumers. We haven't really felt the full blunt of it.
Right.
And I say this because in other countries like St. Lucia and Barbados and Trinidad and so on, they are struggling a lot. In terms of stimulus package. Look, we are now, our government is now looking to provide another stimulus package, a second one. And I wouldn't even call it a second one, because they have been giving stimulus packages to different groups of people. I think the vendors got all the way up to December of last year and so on. So people continue to get assistance in these ways. Projects continue to roll out. People were able to, especially government officials, were able to receive salaries on time. You know, there was no cutback in terms of the public service. So we have not really felt that massive economic effect of COVID-19. Now, we are a very social people. So, you know, that's where we were hit the hardest. The fact that we were unable to socialize, go out and enjoy ourselves, invite people over for carnival and this kind of things. This is where we felt it the most, right? But really and truly, we have not felt the real economic effect of COVID-19. So they're saying that if the world does not vaccinate, and this is not just Grenada, we're speaking about a global issue. if the globe, the people, the populations of the world don't vaccinate as quickly as they expect them to, then we will be losing at approximately $9 trillion. And this is, of course, according to the International Chamber of Commerce. So we ain't just pulling numbers out of a hat here, you know. In 2020, it also shows that that COVID, the pandemic, erased an equivalent of 255 million jobs, right? And these losses were particularly high. Listen to where it was particularly high. In Latin America, the Caribbean, Southern Europe, and Southern Asia.
But you see, an economist, or probably a very good accountant, would be able to unfold much easier and much better a lot of what you have just read. It was not a lot of lines, but it meant so much. There's so much in there.
Yeah.
And if you are able to dissect it properly, then you will get a true picture. So we have been saying for ages, and I have been preaching and broadcasting on this station here, that vaccination, having to take the COVID-19 vaccine, is not just for your medical protection. It does that. That's the major factor why you should.
Right.
Because then your antibodies are strengthened and your system become more resistant to the virus. Yes? But I've consistently said there's economic value in you taking the vaccine. Now, there you have it. The World Chamber of Commerce talking about economies may be able to bounce back and grow. Generally, this is the same thing the World Bank and others is saying, the IMF and so. Generally by about 6%. That is why when at the last budget debate, our Minister of Finance, the Honorable Gregory Bowen, said that there is an expected growth of 6% of the local economy. He didn't just pick that number out of the hat. But he didn't just take it also because the World Bank said it. But they crunched the numbers, they did what they have to do, and that's why they came up with it. And they did say that it will be driven by construction, both in the private and the public sector. And we are already seeing it. I mean, separate and apart from the fact that Trinidad and Tobago can't supply cement now because of the COVID, and so the factory has been down. There's always been a constant demand, and we have always had shortages of cement and steel and the other things. We have a definite deficiency and a shortage in the amount of both skilled and unskilled labor, because almost every village you walk into now, the vast majority of young people are engaged at some place, somewhere, on some construction site, because building and construction is pushing and leading the economy for its growth now. So they are citing that the hesitancy and the lack thereof of people throughout the world, not just Grenada, they didn't mention Grenada, throughout the world, to take the vaccine will further delay the recovery of the economy. Yes? And so it is also interesting to note that while they're predicting there can be a 6% growth in 2021, most economies the world over had negative growth in 2020. Grenada, for example, went back 12 points. We had a 12% decline, right? So what it means is that with the 6% growth we are expecting by the end of 2021, we will still be in negative. Because you have to first offset the 12% negative, because you're starting behind the zero line. 12 places down from zero. So if you go 6% now, you will climb 6 places up, but you will still have a 6% deficit. Yes? So we have to understand all of those concepts. And that's why I say economists and so will be better able to dissect and to have you as the public listening digest these issues a whole lot better. But we are going to try. It is a fact that our economies are in shambles. It is a fact that if we do not do what we have to do, and like I have explained yesterday, the people in the tourist sector, over 5,000 of them have been jobless since the lockdown, since the hotels closed down. Now, if these people do not move and decide to take the vaccine and to prove to the World Tourism Board and the tourist industry internationally that we are ready to accept you.
Yeah.
We have been vaccinated. Our taxi drivers, our vendors, our cooks and hotel workers. And so people would have the confidence because they already know Grenada to be a safe place.
Yeah.
What the government and the Ministry of Health and the workforce within the Ministry of Health, the police and everybody has done over the past year plus has given us a head start. We have grazed around the corner already.
Yeah.
We are heading to the stretch. What is preventing us from real takeoff as a jet now is the fact that our people are reluctant and very hesitant to take the vaccine.
You know, it's interesting to note that this entire pandemic, and that's why we speak about vaccination so much, because I know people think, oh, well, you're over talking vaccination every day. All you're hearing is about vaccination. Because I think when you're looking at it with an open mind and you understand all of the aspects that it will affect, not just the health aspect of it, but because I mean, if it's just the health aspect of it, we vaccinated, who we bothering to talk to? It don't make sense because nobody don't want to do.
Yeah.
If you don't want to protect yourself health wise, then that's okay. But you have to look at it from all of the other aspects, especially the economic aspects. You know, the IMF said that in 2020, 95 million people, right, entered into the ranks of extreme poor. Mm-hmm. And that is 80 million more than the undernourished that there was before. But in addition to that, they also said that by 2030, they expect 207 million people to be pushed into extreme poverty. Mm-hmm. And they are saying this is attributed to the severe long-term impact of COVID-19.
Right.
So, I mean, you really have to look at all the aspects.
Well, yes, that's why we said yesterday that looking at vaccination, it's not just for medical purposes. Mm-hmm. You have to look at the bigger picture. The implications, the trickle-down effect that taking or not taking a vaccine will have on you, your community, and your country. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of cry out about human rights and what have you. No one must infringe and doesn't want to infringe on that legal and fundamental right of each other. But there are other factors to be considered. Absolutely. And that is why the Constitution of Grenada speaks about freedom and rights, but also goes on to say, despite what he said here, in cases where there is a situation like now, a pandemic, and I think the word pandemic appears in the Constitution.
Well, public health emergency.
Public health emergency, that's what he said, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a pandemic.
Right, he says public health emergency because that covers a broad spectrum.
And then it could just be singular to Grenada. Next thing we have an outbreak of chicken pox or whatever here. That also applies to something like that.
Right. It suspends certain part so that you think. Well, you know, amazingly, just last night when I lay down in my bed, sometimes my mind just reflects, it rolls back. I reminisce some of what happened during the day. And it went back to that last call we got on the program yesterday.
Right.
And I said, but wait, you know, some people are so quick to talk about what is fundamental and what is human and what is our rights under the Constitution. And I wonder if some of these people were alive and living in Grenada between 1979 and 1983. And the thought came to me from the standpoint that after the 1979, the March 13, 1979 revolution, the then People's Revolutionary Government suspended the Constitution of Grenada.
Yeah.
They did not use it. They did not make reference to it. They operated with what was referred to as People's Revolutionary Law. So as they go along, they made laws, which was referred to as People's Revolutionary Law 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they were going like that. And these was the laws that we was governed under.
Right.
But I could not recall any single person. Of course, I was much younger and in school, and probably was not following up the politics as closely as I do now, because I am involved more or less in politics still at this time. But I've never heard not one dissenting voice saying, where is my constitutional right?
Yeah.
because the 1974 Constitution was suspended. The PRG government placed that aside. They shelved it.
Yeah.
And they operated based on what they thought was necessary from time to time. They created a law to suit to work in. So it just touched my mind. I thought I mentioned for whatever it's worth. And that is not to negate or to cause anyone to feel that if so strongly their rights are violated, that they should not speak up about it. But more than speak up, they can do something about it. And that is why you have the court system, where you hope that going there will allow you to express and expound on what you consider to be an infringement, and of course allow the other person to defend and hear what the rulings of the court will be. Because going to court doesn't mean any you cannot judge which party is right or wrong. You would have to wait until the judgment comes out.
Absolutely. So we can open the lines, Mr. Bola, at this time. So persons wanting to contribute to the conversation can do so. The number to call is 440-7377 if you are calling locally. If you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it's 347-329-3101. You can also call us or message us via WhatsApp if you want to contribute to the conversation at 440-7377. So, Mr. Bola, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to consider as it relates to the financial, and we have never really delved into all the intricate details. And as you said correctly, so that maybe we need to get an economist to come in here and sit and explain these things to people, or maybe even explain it to us so we are able to, transmit that in layman terms, so persons can understand that the COVID-19 is no ordinary situation. We are not just dealing with a day-by-day situation where you get up in the morning, you talk politics, you go back and sleep in the night. You get up in the morning, you blame Dr. Mitchell, you go back and sleep at night, and everything is normal. We are not in normal times, in no uncertain terms. So we have to. And as you said, just as in the at the time of the PRG, when they were making up rules as they go along because of, trying to meet their own objective or to meet with the needs of the people and the time as it goes, it's the same thing that's happening now. We are dealing with a situation that we are not accustomed to. So therefore, the world is making up rules as it goes along to help us to navigate our way through these kind of troubling things. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning, Miss Cammy.
Good morning, Miss Cammy.
That is saying good morning to Grenada. And those abroad, everybody, Patty, Mr. Watts, and everybody there. Good morning. Mr. Bola.
Hi, dear.
Duncan, I just begging you all permission, please. You kind of rough with me today.
Yes.
And all the things on sale. So allow me, please, to tell people who is listening to pass and support me. I have little dresses for children, $5. $5 on the jerseys and cents, and every child, everybody that buy something today, they're going to get a pencil. You understand?
Yes.
So people pass and support this time. And the next thing, sir.
Yes.
I take my vaccine, I take the both of them. Right?
Yes.
I think we have a mind of our own
we do.
As a people.
Yes, we
and
do.
we could take the vaccine for ourselves. So I don't know what is the deal. People only making all kind of comments about this vaccine. This morning on the radio, on the TV in America, you have to have a passport now,
Yes.
to make sure you take your vaccine. Nobody tell me that. What is for myself? Right? But the Grenadian people taking us that politics, sir. They're playing politics with that. Trust me.
Yes, they are. I agree with you.
And that's the reality. They think that is a Kit Michelle thing, but I ain't bothering with them. And next thing, Mr. Bola, I listening to people that was in the party.
Yes.
As Mr. Tower calling the Prime Minister dictator.
Yes.
And people coming up to me here on the terminal and in the face and telling me Kit Michelle is a dictator and all the things about Peter and the Prime Minister. Mr. Bola, I'm 64 years of age.
Yeah.
I have big children in the army, serving in English and American army. And for my children, so I get myself in trouble, it will be assassin. I want to throw something on them, sir.
No, be careful.
I am not going to say.
Be careful,
big
Sister
man.
Kami. Yes.
Big men.
Don't let the talk get to
party,
you.
Mr. Bola.
Yes.
They provoking me. They come
Yeah.
in front of me and say me rent.
Yes, that's true.
And telling me how to so put and Kit Mitchell and I listen Kit Mitchell. The disrespecting the officer, the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
About Kit Mitchell, Kit Mitchell. How can you use the word?
Right, don't use the word and don't do anything.
Mr. Bola, listen to me, sir. The magistrate and the jurors, there is not on the terminal.
Yes.
Where people do your things and you react. How much should I take? That a guy came up to me yesterday, right at taking the bus, and telling me, Kit Mitchell is a dictator and all sorts of other things. Mr. Bola, I have feelings. I have feelings. There's a mother, a grandmother with 9 grandchildren.
Right.
And they're doing me too much here. So I'm speaking for the jurors to hear. Because they don't speak them out. Magistrate and the judge to hear. Because they don't come to know.
Yeah.
From this coming outside, you want from Grand Roy. Mr. Bola. This guy coming here every Friday when he drink rum by the name of Grouper and tell me, don't you think, Mr. Bola, I am speaking because I am tired of people harassing me, sir.
Okay.
If they see the Prime Minister, they're not telling him nothing.
That's
and they come
true.
and disrespect me. And I have big children. I have big children, you know, sir.
I agree with you. I believe you. But there's somewhere where they talk about sticks and stones may break my bone. But words, let us speak the words. They would have to eat it someday after. Don't worry
Mr.
with them at all.
They're telling me about me so good.
Yes.
And I the Prime Minister this. And
Yeah.
all kind of hurtful things.
Yeah.
And there is people that laughing. And taking it and making a mockery. So I have to speak.
No, speak out about it by all means. Speak out, but don't retaliate violently because then the police come in and arrest you.
I'm tired because the police can't do nothing now.
No, they will arrest you.
Report on Grouper from Grand Roy, alien Grouper. That man harassing me too much, sir. And that is wrong.
It is wrong.
I don't harass nobody. Yes, I like my politics and I will talk about me and politics, but I don't harass nobody. I have children and I am speaking because when I go doing something and do Terry and them something, I hope nobody will say nothing. Have a good day and a good weekend. Anybody want to buy? I have little dresses.
What's the size of your dresses? What size?
For small children.
I want to make up my money to pay my rent.
Yeah, for small children.
But what size? Miss Cammy?
Yes.
What's the size of the dresses that you have? The size. What size?
Dresses.
The dresses?
Yeah, for
like children, babies.
Okay.
For babies.
For what, like a 1 year and 2 year old.
Okay.
Nice little dresses.
For $5.
They send it for me. And I'm selling it to make up to pay me the rent.
Okay.
Right.
And you have a lot of people that owe me my money. And they don't come and pay me. They're hiding. And they do put our soul. And they're still hiding to come and pay me my money.
No, that's not nice.
Too. So when I can't pay me rent, they rejoice when they throw me out.
Yeah, that's not nice.
Come and pay me.
Yes.
Yeah. I want my money.
Please, all you go.
And they're working with government.
Pay Miss Carmi what all you owe. If you can't pay all, go and pay something.
Me.
Yes, you should have. Go and pay something, and she has good sales today, and you know it's a double whammy.
I want them people to stop going around and cussing me about the Prime Minister. You see that same Kit Mitchell cussing there? They're going to need him one day.
Yes, they will.
Just not my word today.
Yes.
Yeah. They're going to need that man.
Yeah.
They're going to need him. That Prime Minister we have in Grenada. They're going to need him one day. Anyhow, you all have a blessed weekend.
You take care, have a nice one, and I hope you get a lot of sales today. People go out and get the dresses for your young ones. $5, that's $5. A little bit of money, yes.
Yeah. Well, we have another call on the line. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan. How are you this morning?
I am good. How are you?
I'm okay so far, Mr. Bola. How are you
Good morning. Morning, sir.
Okay, seeking permission to speak you're sick is regarding COVID, but I want to speak on the security part of it, yeah? I don't know if I seek permission. Anyhow, the problem is that from where I stay in the south of the island, there is a I don't know if it's controversy or whatever it is. even after the curfew, there's a lot of movement, and there are certain people who still conduct a business.
Business, okay.
It is, and when the police come, all what it does is that they give them ticket and the business goes on, and it is kind of disturbing from where the business is conducted. It is in a residential area,
okay,
and then a lot of other unnecessary controversy goes on. So I don't know to what extent this could be done. I mean, I don't know if they will like to climb the curfew maybe back to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, because when the police approaches them, they got, all they can do is like ticket them. That's all.
Well, that is not what we expect. When there's rules or regulations set out, it is for the nation. It is for every citizen. And I don't know that any one citizen should have preference to break the law and not be dealt with. I mean, the officers have discretion, like we say. So as you clearly said, may come this time and say, well, look, we give you a ticket, but you need to close down because the hour has passed. Next time they may want to take you to court or ban you or whatever the case is. But I think what is the sticking point is if after the hour they are allowed to continue, that cannot be right.
The ticket, the person continues
no, that cannot be right. So what's the purpose of the ticket then?
What I'm saying is, not just that, because and what happens between whoever the people are around between those hours, they stay within the compound of the individual, and the business. You understand?
Yeah. And it creates disturbances for the neighborhood.
What I'm saying is that that's only for Mr. Bull or Ms. Duncan, and for me, it is across the board.
Across the board, that's how it should be.
And have you reported?
We're coming from, and the officers at times have been disrespected by throwing negative words. And I mean, I don't know if they do, I mean, God knows if they want to arrest the individuals or not. It's up to them, because me and we cannot do their job. I think they have to use their own discretion, as you said, to do whatever needs to be done.
Have you ever reported this to the Ministry of Health? Because I know the Ministry of Health, in a matter like this, they have the powers to suspend the business or suspend the activity if they are in breach of protocols.
At the end of the day, I think the police has come on a number of occasions, and then the police is the one who has to take. Because if I'm the police and I'm coming here and giving you a ticket week after week after week, you understand what I'm saying?
But the police can ticket, but I think the Ministry of Health has the power to suspend.
No, but I think the police can do more than ticket. From what the gentleman is saying,
they have to know
they may ticket,
because the police is
but they allow the activity to go on,
continue,
even after the curfew hours, and that to me is an indictment.
Yeah, because I would think that when they ticket, it's to shut down immediately. Everybody disperse.
That is what I would believe based on what the law calls for. No, so neither Ms. Duncan or I have no control over that, but we are happy that you raise it.
I don't want to speak too much in the sense about I have to see in person to discuss this further matter, because it's not good to discuss so much things on the air.
Okay, I understand that. But what I was going to say to you is good that you raise it. So now that we know about it, we can speak to people.
Across the border and in the south of the island, what I'm saying is that there's still a lot of movement.
After the hours.
Curfew means curfew. Yes, I don't see anything apart from that, because as you said earlier, I have lived here during the revolutionary government time, and when I say no, it is no, and it's no.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. So I don't know from where this will go on. So
No. We have to demand more discipline and more respect. I am not in for brutality, but people have to.
I still suggest that the curfew could come down more to like 10:30, 11, or even earlier stage.
Some people feel that way,
business has to go on, but like majority of the business has to go on is like form of entertainment. Entertainment means crowd. When you have crowd, where does that go from here?
Yep.
That is my concern. Yes, the person wants to make money. We understand, but it's crowd. what about if anything happens and then how you do all this rating?
Yeah. Yeah. We understand.
Yeah, because it's not just about business, as you may say. We all want to make a dollar at the end of the day, but at the expense of whose life?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely true.
Yeah, and it's, at the end of the day, as we've seen is just it's bottom line is alcohol and entertainment. And when Mr. Bowler may have to go to work the next day, the other person is comfortably doing the business by distracting Mr. Bowler.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bowler cannot have a good night rest.
Understood. I think you make a lot of sense, and this is something that must be brought to the attention
something has to be done
the authorities.
Seriously, and I'm also would like to say that businesses occurring in a residential area should not be allowed anything after 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Any business or any form of highly entertainment, because where residential is like where you go in and rest your head. Yeah? Because Ms. Duncan don't want to take off this headphone and then go and face music on the next side of the house.
Right.
Yeah?
True.
So I would like you all to look into this.
Yeah, we can raise the issue with some people in authority and see what can be done. But we thank you for it.
But as I said, I prefer not. I prefer come to talk to you.
Yeah, anytime feel free. We can have a one-on-one and get more details. But we'll do the best we can. And we thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
You guys have a good day, a good weekend.
Yeah, you as well. Yep. And, these are things that must be considered and taken seriously, because you can't have a lopsided approach when it comes to upholding the law.
And it's funny because the minister, not the Minister for Health, the CMO, in the last press briefing that he was at, mentioned that this is a problem that they are having, where individuals are just going and businesses are going against the regulations and the protocols. And I remember very clearly when that business in the south of the island was their ability to operate was suspended. And the Grenadians, and I'm gonna say Grenadians, the same ones of us that are up in arms for everything, were saying, they take away them people right to make a bread and butter, especially in this hard time. And while that may be true, some persons' jobs may have been affected. The bigger picture is, who is the person that is going to say, listen, you're wrong and you're wrong? It's just as we have been saying, yes, you have a right to do this and you have a right to do that. But when you make a choice and a decision to exercise whatever you feel your right is, you must deal with whatever consequences
that follow. Yep.
We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to Ms. Duncan and Mr. Bowler.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I had called earlier in the week concerning the road in Lower New Hampshire. When you live Grenville there.
Yes. Concerning a road, a hole around a corner and so.
Yeah, I passed there yesterday and they have done it properly.
Okay.
There we go.
The program is doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, we thank you. We oftentimes try to reach out to the people we believe may have the power to make certain changes. We can't guarantee anything. We are not administrators. We don't have power over anyone. But when we get information, we try to pass it on. And it's good, and we are happy that you call back to say that it's done.
Yeah, well, I passed there yesterday twice.
Yes. Yes.
And I saw it done, and I feel really good knowing I called and done.
Well, you see the wonders that can happen when we report things through the correct channels. Thank you again.
And in the correct
people should use more like on events like that. On the program. The program is useful in sense of getting things done.
Yeah.
Government may not know all the problems.
They will definitely not know all.
And if they could relate to you and then you pass it to them.
Yes.
I see this program as an important program.
Thank you for that.
And then I just saw a little thing. I had called yesterday. I'm the last caller you all talked to yesterday concerning the vaccine and SGU. And I had called the day you wasn't there.
Yes.
Duncan.
Yes.
And I'm the one that mentioned about the Constitution. Yeah, I'm the caller.
Okay.
But what I want to say just about the cement situation, Mr. Bowler. I met a young lady last night. I gave her a ride. And she was telling me she worked in the construction industry. and she do not have a job at the moment because of cement.
Of cement,
and
yes.
Money, and it hurt my heart.
Yeah.
So what's the current situation in the cement?
Well, let me tell you what I know, from what I know, and if it has changed, it must have been in the last week, and I don't know. In fact, one supplier or importer told me that they expect cement coming in on Monday. They expect a boat to be in port on Monday offloading. Okay. We have to wait to see. But what has happened because of the COVID situation in Trinidad, where we get our bulk of cement from, that factory has been closed. Nothing is happening, no operations, so they can't ship. So what the government did, because of the Carriacou single market and economy, anytime you have to import anything from an extra regional country, meaning a country outside of Carriacou, you have to first seek a license from Carriacou, because the rule within Carriacou is once there is a country within Carriacou that can supply, you should take from them. And that goes not just for Grenada, but for all countries. So they had since applied and have been granted permission. So there are some suppliers who are looking at places like Panama and Mexico and those other places to bring in cement. But one would appreciate, because they are a further distance away, it takes a longer time to make the order, to do everything, and to get it in. But up until the end of last week, one of the suppliers told me that Monday of this week, the week coming, they expect a shipment. So we have to wait and see. So it's not that the government has not done what they should, but it takes a little time. Yeah, so I hope things will improve. And that young lady in particular, madam, I wish that it wouldn't be too long before you are called back, because cement will be around for you to continue.
Yeah, I was right last night.
Yeah, now it's a concern when, especially single mothers, they have a hard thing on their hand.
And to be a young lady in the country, you know.
Yes,
good,
yes. There are quite a few of them nowadays.
Yes,
but that's good. But we expect, and I'm hopeful that ship would really arrive on Monday.
Okay, man.
Good.
You all have a good weekend and take care.
You take care too. Have a very good one yourself.
Yeah, bless.
Bless. All right, nice.
Yeah. So, guys, the lines are open. The number to call is 440-7377 if you want to contribute to the conversation locally. If you're in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it's 347-329-3101. You can also send us a message via WhatsApp, or you can call us as well via WhatsApp at 440-7377. So, Mr. Bola, this is where we are in terms of the economic situation, and there's much to be explained, especially in the Grenada context. What we've spoken about is more of on an international level, what is happening internationally, and we know that it's going to trickle down, because they often say when the bigger countries sneeze, smaller ones catch the cold, right? So we are going to feel some of the effects of it, especially if there are continued lockdowns in a lot of the key producing countries. Like, for example, I wonder if it was 2 weeks ago, where a journalist had asked to the CMO what was the status on the shortage of vaccinations in the country. And we're speaking about vaccinations for other things, measles, mumps, polio, these kind of things that we get vaccinated for. There is a shortage. Now, of course, we know that this shortage is attributed to the fact that one of the main suppliers of these vaccinations is currently going through
a really tough time.
A really tough time.
That's India.
Of their own. With as it relates to COVID-19, and not only vaccinations but medications as well.
In general,
You know, they are a massive producer, not just supplier, but producer.
In fact, I think India has the largest sort of factory or production plant for medical supplies. So vaccines, medication, all of those things. That's where they make one of the plants where they make the AstraZeneca. But they are going through a tough time themselves, one, with the COVID-19, two, with the supply of the AstraZeneca, because the expectation was that, being the largest, they would produce so much more. But they also now finding that there is a difficulty to access some of the items that are needed for the production of the vaccine.
Right.
And not just the AstraZeneca, but several others. So if that shortage continues, we can see down the line that there'll be even more problems as it relates to vaccine production.
Yeah. So we have to just we have to just wait and see what will happen, because there's no way of predicting really and truly what the final outcome in a lot of these situations will be. But as countries are experiencing low vaccination uptake, especially in the regions like ours, we will very soon see what that will mean for us here as a country, but also what we are contributing to the world as well. As more countries vaccinate, but at a slower rate, it means that the rate of recovery becomes slower as well. It means the chances of more people getting infected and there being more lockdowns is also imminent as well.
Very possible.
And that is where we have the problem.
Very possible.
That is where we have the problem. So that's why we continue here every single day to preach vaccination, to talk about the effects of not being vaccinated, not just the medical side of it, but the economic and social effects as well. We have another call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Muller, is any country, is Cuba receiving any vaccine from any country?
Cuba, not that I know of. From what I've learned is that no country has supplied Cuba, or they probably have not made request. I'm not sure how it is, whether they made a request and didn't get, or they never made a request and it was never offered. But they are heavily reliant on their own once the testing phase is completed, to utilize among their people.
Yeah, I have a question, making something else, but I want to hear from you all.
Yes.
Well, I ask the question because some people
they're waiting on the Cuban vaccine. And I asked them this question like you are about to ask, when is the Cuban vaccine coming? Because I think it is going through its third stage of testing now, the third phase with the WHO. I also happen to know that from international information, that the Iranian government had used some of this Cuban vaccine to vaccinate the people in Iran. And that is even though it was not yet finally approved by WHO, because there are some countries that don't wait on WHO approval. So, example, the US, they rely on the Drug and Food Administration, or Food and Drug Administration, FDA. The FDA.
So they know the virus is not in Cuba? And they don't do
Cuba. Oh, there are a lot of Cubans that are COVID-19 positive, and they have not done very much. If they have done vaccination in Cuba thus far, is a very limited amount. And what is expected is that once they get the approval and they start production, they will take care of their people first. I mean, Cuba has been very benevolent. They have always offered, especially in the medical field, assistance to everyone else around them. And there is no doubt in my mind that they will when the time comes. But when will that time be? That's what we can put a handle on.
When is they waiting on the Cuban vaccine? Ask me the question: are the coronavirus waiting for the Cuban vaccine?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's waiting, so then you have something here which is good and acceptable, right? You have it here. You want to have.
Yeah.
Why you wait on something? You're sure if you're going to get it, because the Cuban will not leave the people and give it out.
True.
Only if they don't want it, and I believe it right now. As soon as that vaccine you get it okay, the Cuban will have to look after the people first, which everybody going to do. You cannot forsake yourself and look after people. Yeah. You have to treat your people, right? So then, yes, if the Cuban have, we're going to get it, but then they have to look after the people. So when you people say they wait on the Cuban vaccine, how long? I get the question. How long are they waiting? How long are they waiting? How long will the Cuban vaccine be ready?
Yeah.
And if it's ready, they still have to look after the people before they go give other countries. Yes, the Cuban will return the health. There's a pandemic. They have to look after the people.
Of course.
So figure what they look within the Cuban vaccine. So sometimes adults say, how are we thinking? How are we thinking? Right? So like when we say like if no sickness, like if the virus, wait in. So I always say to Grenadian people, let us use what we have. What we have is approved by the World Health Organization.
Yep.
Okay? So Mr. Duncan, Mr. Bull, you all have a wonderful day.
You as well, my brother. Take care. They say someone says the best vaccine is the vaccine that is available.
Yeah.
The best one you have is the one that the best to have is the one that you have.
Yeah.
You cannot talk about what you don't have because, as the caller correctly said, and from our experience and dealing with the Cubans over the years, we know how they are. They're very, very, very helpful. Always willing to contribute. But up until now, we don't know. And also, citing the shortage in supply of the raw materials needed.
Because there is an embargo.
Well, I mean, Cuba has an embargo in which the Americans do not trade with them. A lot of the raw materials comes from the U.S.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in addition to that, there's definitely a shortage.
Yeah.
Other countries are complaining of the inability to source.
Yeah. Well, right before India. Right before India had this massive outbreak, they also had that issue with the U.S. where they could not source enough raw materials to produce more of the AstraZeneca. So bound by law, India is expected to export X amount of vaccines so that the other countries around the world, they are able to vaccinate their people already. So they're bound by law to produce that amount. Okay. But they are also bound to produce enough to vaccinate their people. Now, if you're not getting a consistent supply of raw materials, but you're bound by law, so you must export, it means that you'll have an internal problem. And that's one of the biggest problems that they had,
of course,
in terms of vaccinating their own people. They are bound to, and then they also gave a lot as gifts.
While India gave and sold hundreds of millions of doses, India at the time only vaccinated 2% of the population.
Yeah.
A population that is about 1.34 billion people.
Yeah.
Only 2% of that, because they were concentrating on supplying the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Now, the rooster has come home, and they had it right there in their doorstep. They have now taken a decision that there will be no export for the next year, and possibly 2 years, they say.
Yep.
Possibly for the next 2 years. Now, if that becomes a reality, where do we stand? They are the largest producer. So, I mean, sometimes people make decisions and they say things and they tell you, well, I'm waiting, I have hopes, this one will be better and that one will be better and I'll do this and I'll do that. And they don't seek the facts behind it, And, just while we're talking economics, we're talking vaccine, we're talking the interrelationship between the economics and the vaccine, taking or not taking, which is the right of people. There's this initiative, I think, that the Ministry of Health has announced where they are collaborating with the National Lotteries Authority. So as you take your shots, I think you get a ticket or a card or something that you will fill in your information and place it in a box. And I think weekly is what I learned, that they'll be doing a draw.
I did not.
I think it's weekly for a couple of weeks, but it wouldn't be. And then the winner is a $10,000 you will get.
Okay. What the minister did say, though, which is what I know, is that the vaccination process up till the 27th. So persons who have been either partially or in full vaccinated by the 27th, names will be entered into a draw. Whether the draw would be a one-off draw or a weekly something, I don't know. That was not made clear.
Okay. I didn't hear the minister myself, so I'm not sure. I'm just reproducing. So that's why I'm asking. But there are some people that are making a whole lot of noise about that. And, coming up with a lot of negatives. And I mean, I don't see it. Yes, it's an incentive, But it's saying you want to force people. No one. I think forcing is when you physically push someone into doing something.
Yeah.
You know, which is my impression of what forcing is. But if you use methods of trying to encourage, it's incentivizing people. In Antigua, I understand that, I don't know how to do it, but some people are ending up with pieces of land.
Right.
As a result of going and get vaccinated. So I don't know if it's the same process where they will take the names and put it into a box or something, and I have not found out what the process is for coming up with who the winner is, and you get a piece of land, a house, a lot or something. There are some other jurisdictions where I understand people get vehicles and other things. So, I mean, even if that wasn't happening anywhere else, I don't see the devil in what is being done or what is, well, it's not done yet, but what is being approached. I think it's a smart initiative. I think that the thinkers behind it are trying to be innovative, and for people who had little doubts or weren't sure and thing, may incentivize them to do it. And anyway, when you do it, you're doing a good for yourself and for your country in terms of getting vaccinated, because you're having the country getting closer to what is referred to as herd immunity. And so the international community will know about it, and they will be open, or there will be more people from external countries that would want to come into Grenada to vacate, or, you know, to get some business done or so we can bring back greater business activity and see the economy rebounding much faster and much better than it is now, more job creation and everything else like that. So I honestly yet have not seen the devil in it, and I would like someone who may be opposed to express the reasons for opposing to that move, and what is the danger in the move. Maybe there is, it's just that I have not seen it, and so I would like to hear from anyone who considers it as a dangerous precedent that we are setting. Yeah.
Well, the most we can do is continue to encourage, to continue to talk, to continue to educate people on the effects of COVID-19, the effects of not getting vaccinated, and encouraging them to just go to the correct sources. I mean, I don't understand. I don't know why we have to keep preaching this thing every day for people to understand.
You know why, so don't say you don't know.
Go to the correct sources.
Say you don't like the fact that we have to do it every day, but you know why we are doing it every day. I know why. So don't say I don't know why. You do.
Yeah, I just don't like
because we want to encourage. Yeah. Because we know the benefits there will be for all of Grenada.
For all of us.
When more of us get vaccinated.
Yeah. So some may say, well, my immune system strong enough. I don't take it. No. But guess what? Is your pocket strong enough? Your pocket, you have to worry about your immune system too. You have to worry about your pocket. Is my pocket strong enough to deal with the economic effects of COVID-19? That's a question we need to start asking people. Is your pocket strong enough to deal with it? While your immune system may be strong.
But how did they test the strength of the immune system?
Well, that's what people keep saying. They're randomly saying because I take my vitamins and I eat well, my immune system is expected to be strong. But we just don't know.
Eating a lot of food is not eating well, you know. Yeah. Or eating 3 meals a day doesn't necessarily mean you're eating well. No.
Eating fruits and vegetables all day, every day, doesn't mean that you're eating well.
Because eating well means that you must get a balanced diet.
Balanced diet,
right? Which must consist of a sufficiency amount of fat, good fats.
Good fats.
Some protein, small bit of carbs, and some veggie, which will give you the minerals and other things that you need.
Yeah.
Right? So you're just eating 3 times a day. Yeah, well, I eating well. I just eat 3 times a day. My immune system is strong. You might be making the biggest mistake and biggest miscalculation in your life. Yeah, so we have to be careful with how we go about saying and thinking those things are just, it's just like a walk in the park. It's not. It's not. I appreciate the fact that some people think they eat the 3 meals or they eat a lot of food when they sit to eat a meal. That means eating well. In fact, the amount you're eating might be more detrimental to your own health than doing a good for you. So the nutritional value in the foods that you eat, again, may be very questionable. So we have to be careful with what we do. And my appeal is to people to really reconsider, to check the sources, to have alternative sources than just the platforms that we go on, the social media platforms and so, where most times it's just people expressing their opinions and so, and talking about things in such a manner that they sound very convincing, that what they say sounds so much like something that we should do or something that we should accept. Be very clear in your mind who you should take counsel from.
Yeah. Because
some of us sometimes gets wrong counsel because we take it from the wrong people.
Yep.
Yeah. So get the facts, and of course make your mind up. No one has to make your mind up for you. We can only encourage you to make your mind up. We can only give you the facts that we have. We can only tell you about things that we believe you should do to make life for you and for others much better. But we can't force you. We're not going to fight you. And the Prime Minister already said he's not going to put any law in place to make it mandatory. So, friends, please, look at this thing, think about it again, and go get vaxxed, because it's the best thing we can do for ourselves and our family and our country at this time. There's so many of the people who are anti-vaxxers and saying, it's magnet, it's this, is cheap, is what they're putting into you. None of them so far has come up with an alternative as to how you can try to bring some control and how you can try to protect people from this COVID-19 virus. I have not heard any one of them offer up a solution, offer up an alternative to vaccination. So let's just think smartly. Let's just do what we're supposed to do and feel proud of what we do, because at the end of the day, can we take another lockdown? Can we take a series of deaths? Can we accommodate in our hospital?
We don't complain about the little curfew we have.
Yeah, the amount of people that may come down with the ailment, I don't think we can. So we need to be very, very careful as a people. We need to look at what's happening closely around us. We need to look at Trinidad, for example, and I've seen so many videos coming across on a daily basis of the kind of crowd and numbers that are going out to get vaccinated. And the question is why? Because they have seen firsthand what the havoc that COVID is reaping on the country, and so most people don't want the same thing happen to them. So that in and of itself has convinced them. I'm sure that in those lines there were people who said they will never get vaccinated. But now necessity for survival caused them to go.
Yeah.
I don't hope that that's what we're waiting for in Grenada. I hope not. I hope that we are not waiting to see a massive outbreak and see deaths all over the place for us to be convinced. I hope that if we have doubt on anything, that we'll seek out the right people and get the kind of advice that is suitable, and then we act based on the advice we get. If the medical advice is not to do it, then maybe you shouldn't. Or maybe you should seek a second opinion, whatever the case may be. But at least do something positive for yourself today. Do something positive for your country. Do something positive for your family. If that is the only thing you can give to them before you move on, please do it. Give them health and security.
All right, well, guys, we've come to the end of our program for today. And as we say here every day, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure, be responsible. It has been a pleasure speaking with you guys today. So please do enjoy the remainder of your day and, of course, your weekend. So be safe and stay tuned for the National Report. It has been a pleasure, guys.